Hey guys, in today's video I was thinking we could go over and I could maybe demonstrate and just show you different kinds of honey. Now, honey is something that I used to hate, and I kind of avoided it a lot of the time. We'll start off with one jar, just so that you'll have something to kind of glance at before I get into it. But I used to really dislike honey, especially when I was little. I just never really liked it. I remember in particular one time I had pneumonia actually, and I was at the beach, and my grandpa kept insisting that I just eat some honey and take a spoonful of honey and I would feel better. And I didn't believe him, because how could I feel better from something that I hated to taste? But more recently I just had a really bad cold last year. It was last fall. And I just was feeling so sick. I was on various cold medications, and I just felt like I was kind of suffering from it a little bit. And my boss at work suggested that I have some honey, and that I just take a few spoonfuls every day. And I swear to you, the cold disappeared within about 3 or 4 days after me having it for a few good weeks. Anyway, I suppose my point is that honey has many health benefits. They used to use it as a means of storing meat, as a preservative. You can also use it as a means of keeping wounds or cuts clean, let alone the obvious significance of ingesting honey and taking spoonfuls of it to keep healthy. I've heard that having a spoonful of honey daily can really boost your immune system. I guess maybe that's where the phrase "a spoonful of sugar" comes from. Because depending on the type of honey, the variety can be very, very, very sweet. But what I have here today to show you, I have a few varieties from a few locations, even from across the US. Unfortunately, I am missing one of my favorite jars, so I unfortunately can't show you that. But I hope to find it sometime soon. It just tasted so good. I'm going to demonstrate today for you the various types of colors, textures, and I'll try to do some taste tests and describe to you what each jar of honey tastes like, because they definitely do have different tastes depending on which variety you choose to eat. I also really recommend having honey in green tea. Green tea has less caffeine than black tea, and it's healthier to drink. Even just one spoonful really suffices. It can sweeten up the tea and really soothe a sore throat, especially if you have a cough or you're not feeling well. It can really, really help out, and I speak from experience on that. So, I have a whole line of jars in front of me, but to start off, I'll go with this one. This jar of honey is from Vermont, as you can see from the little logo. It's from Champlain Valley apiaries, and this type of honey is crystallized, otherwise known as creamed honey or set honey. It's grade A. Their tagline is, "The flower's fragrance is its flavor." And I can attest to that. If you have varieties of honey that come from wildflowers or certain types of flowers, they definitely taste more floral than your average clover honey that you might buy in the store. This honey is also raw, which means that when they processed it, they used the most basic level of processing possible. It means that all they did was perhaps filter it through like a layer of cheesecloth. That's probably all they did, just to get out any chunks of wax or things like that. So it says each serving is about 60 calories. Let's see what else. This honey in particular is a bit of a lighter color than other types, and I can show you another one just for comparison. This color is a clover honey just bought from the store. So as you can see, the crystallized honey is a lighter color. And what I mean by crystallized is that they create crystallization patterns within the honey. Now, honey in its natural form, and it is all natural. There are no synthetic honeys. Honey is only made naturally from bees. Now, when honey claims to be organic, that means that the bees took the pollen from organic flowers. So, although all honey is natural, the bees can source the nectar from flowers or plants that were either cared for with pesticides or organically. So that's where the organic label comes from. Now, creamed, set, or crystallized honey all means the same thing. It simply refers to patterns of crystallization that occur within the honey itself. Now, to be more specific about what I mean by that, you may be familiar with a jar of honey that's left out, normally in your cabinet for a few months, and after a few months it kind of becomes hard in some areas, and becomes hard to squeeze out of the bottle or spoon out of the jar, and you find that you may have to heat it in order to make it fully liquid again. So when it becomes hard and it forms those crystallized patterns, that is exactly how creamed honey is made. All they do is take a certain amount of those crystals and add it to a jar of normal liquid honey, and after a few weeks at a certain temperature, the whole jar that was formerly liquid honey will copy the patterns of crystallization from they call it the seed of crystallized honey that was put into the whole jar. So I think it's a very fascinating process. And the very texture of creamed honey is very different from liquidized honey. If you want to change it from being creamed, all you have to do is heat it with very warm water in a pot over the stove. So just warm up that water Champlain Valley Apiary Crystallized Honey. And to be honest, I've never actually tried this honey. I bought it a while ago this fall, but I have never actually tried it, so this will be the first time. Hopefully I can get it open. Okay. Now, as I was bringing it off the top of the jar, I realized that some was slipping out. Okay. So, keep that there. I have a couple different spoons to try it with. Okay. So, this jar in particular, as you can see, it's crystallized, but it's still kind of free-flowing. And I can show you a comparison between this type of crystallization and a more defined type later in the video. So this one is still crystallized. You can see right there when you look at it, the little granules of crystallization in each spoonful, and it flows much more slowly than normal liquid honey would. And I'll try to get a little bit more off the spoon before I taste it. Okay. So I'll go ahead and give it a go. Okay. So, I can say off the bat that crystallized has a little bit of a grainy texture in your mouth, and as you swallow, it's a little bit grainier. It tastes noticeably sweeter than liquidized honey. I think because perhaps the crystallization process kind of concentrates the sweetness. I'm not exactly sure. But to me, the crystallized types always taste sweeter than normal honey. Okay. So I'll finish off this last spoonful. It's very good. I do recommend it. Now, this crystallized honey is also very good when you spoon it into tea, or to use as part of a recipe. So I definitely recommend creamed honey a lot. Now I'll go on to my other brand of creamed honey. This brand is actually from Victor, Montana, as you can see right there. Prairie Sunshine 100% pure creamed honey. Now this creamed honey, I can tell you, is very much harder set. I really enjoy the texture, and this type of honey, in particular this brand, tastes very, very good with tea. It just has that way of sweetening it just right, how I like it. as you can already tell, this honey has a noticeably harder surface. I'll change spoons because that one still has some remnants on it from the previous taste. But as you can see, and here, this has much more of a harder set, a different crystallization pattern that causes it to stay more solid. And you can see, if I kind of dig into it a little bit, it does come apart. But it definitely has that harder set. And you can see all the times that I've scooped out from it to add to my tea. Alright, so I'll go ahead and give this one a taste. So this one tastes noticeably different from the previous batch. And speaking of the previous batch, I do want to read what was on the label of this Vermont variety, because I think it talks about the filtering process. Okay, so it says this honey is packed without heating or filtering to retain the natural, fragrant flavor and healthful properties that it has when extracted from the honeycomb. Honey is excellent on cereals, fruit, sandwiches, in tea, coffee, and can also be used for cooking purposes. Store at room temperature. This will keep the honey soft and easy to use. This honey was gathered by bees mainly from the blossoms of clover, alfalfa, and other legumes. This jar contains honey carefully blended to maintain a uniformly high-quality flavor and texture. Honey is the only sweet used by mankind since before the dawn of history. Of honey, King Solomon has said, "Eat so much as is sufficient for thee. It is sweet to the taste and health to the bones." Okay, so that about sums it up for that variety. And then we'll return back to this. This kind in particular, I just find it so impressive that they got such a nice set. That's quality. And when I first purchased this in Montana, this whole surface was just like this area here. And it was just so cool to dig into it. But as you can see, this has supplied me with many cups of tea, and I will continue to. Hopefully this brand has a website where I can order and restock. I even considered using this brand as a seed to start making my own creamed honey, but we'll see how that goes in the future. Okay, so now we can switch over. We'll go to liquid honey. And I do have one more creamed for later that we'll get to. This one, I believe, is from Maine. Yep, it's from Maine. And this is just, I think it's a clover honey. Now you can see how this liquid moves much faster and it's a different color. I think this is just clover. It doesn't specify, but if I had to guess, I think if it was wildflower, it would specify that. Alright, so I'll try Well, actually, this might be a wildflower honey. It doesn't taste like clover. It does taste like wildflower. That's interesting. This is not as sweet as the creamed honey, but I kind of like it that way. That's not a negative attribution, that's kind of just, it's its own thing. I kind of like how it's not as sweet. It goes down much smoother. With the creamed honeys, it can kind of almost be too sweet to eat multiple spoonfuls. But this is definitely smoother. I would definitely add this to tea or just taste a spoonful if I was feeling kind of sick, like I needed it. Sometimes honey is just an acquired taste. And I remember the last time I tried this, I didn't enjoy it as much, but maybe I've just grown from that, and now I do. I don't know. So I would recommend this kind as well. I really would. Okay. So next we have some more liquid honey from Big Y. This is Clover honey. Something that's important to note for everyone purchasing honey, each bottle contains this warning not to feed honey to infants under 1 year of age. I'm not exactly sure as to why that is. I think if you looked it up online, though, there would be detailed explanations as to why. I'm assuming it's a health risk for some reason. Perhaps under the age of 1, it could be a potential allergen for some children and may produce adverse effects if they try it. I'm not entirely sure, but that is an important risk to note when purchasing honey. Just making sure that it's out of reach of kids that young. So we'll give this variety a try. And it looks like this kind, you can see it around the top there. This kind had begun to crystallize. And when they crystallize naturally like this, you kind of have to let them go for a long time. You won't get that uniformly distributed creamed honey effect, but certain areas will be crystallized. Alright, so I'll try this out. Alright, so this is a taste test for the Big Y honey, Clover. See if I can tell the difference. I think that I can. The Clover ones just tend to have more of a monotone flavor, whereas honeys made from wildflowers or various types of nectars, they just taste different. They just have more of a variety in their flavors. It kind of like, I don't know, it's very interesting. And I also should let you know that I did not specifically go out and buy these honeys just for this video. These are just the kinds that have been given to me in the past. Okay, so here I have a variety from Trader Joe's that was given to me. 100% desert mesquite honey from the desert of northern Mexico. Pure natural honey. There doesn't appear to be an additional description besides the warning. So, And as you can see on the sides here, this has begun to crystallize. To crystallize from disuse and just kind of sitting in the cabinet. And you can see how the little patterns form. So I'll go ahead and open this up. We can try out this one. Okay, so I kind of had to squeeze the bottle really hard because apparently not only has the sides begun to crystallize, but also the honey itself was definitely beginning to crystallize. So it was not in the liquid form I thought it would be, and I had to kind of squeeze out some creamed honey. But as you can see, this kind of creamed honey is not totally set like the last jar was. So it was kind of difficult enough to squeeze out, yet soft enough of a texture to kind of like fall back in on itself. Alright, so I'll try out this flavor and see if that, what did it say? We'll see how the desert mesquite tastes. And I've never tried this before till right now, but I would say it does taste a little bit different. Nothing too huge or super noticeable. Like if you didn't tell someone there was a difference, I don't think they would be able to tell. But, I mean, if it was like a blind taste test, I don't know if they would be able to tell. I like how this label is kind of crinkled. But I did like it. It tasted pretty good. I think if I was to actually want to use this, I might try to melt it down so that in a pot like I was describing before, because it would be easier to get out of the bottle that way. Okay, so I did like that. I think I'd recommend it. If you frequently shop at Trader Joe's, you might have already tasted that and you might enjoy it. Okay, this is a honey that I picked up in South Dakota. Now this one is not just normal flavored honey. It also has a bit of amaretto flavoring in it as well. So it's from Honey World in Parker, South Dakota. And as you can see, there they call it whipped honey. But again, whipped honey is the exact same as crystallized, set honey, or creamed honey. They're all the same thing, they just follow that crystallization pattern. And with this, I got it at a gift shop. And it's in a little bit of a different jar. It's a little jar. But it has a nice gold top on it. And I have not tried this flavor in months, so let's see how it goes. Hopefully I'll be able to get it open for you guys. Alright. So as you can see, this indeed is whipped honey. It's not liquefied. It has its crystallization pattern. And again, it's that lighter tan color. Alright, so let's try a little bit of this. Ooh. And this is harder than I expected it to be quite honest. So this definitely has a harder set. See how it doesn't flow as freely? Yes, that's kind of a harder set on it. Alright, so I'll try that out. Okay, so this has it's a unique flavor, and it has layers, and it's very interesting to taste. So first, when you taste it, first of all, you have the experience of it being a harder set, but it's not as tough of a grain as the mesquite honey was, or the prairie sunshine, or the Champlain Valley. So although it's a harder set, it feels smoother in your mouth, which is nice. So when you first taste it, it has that texture, and then it tastes kind of lemony. There's a lemony taste to it. If someone told me, or rather if they didn't tell me that it was amaretto, I might guess that it was like a lemony flavor, because that's what it tastes like. Then again, I'm no amaretto connoisseur either. So the only thing with this honey, as enjoyable as it is that you wouldn't be able to use it in traditional recipes unless you wanted that flavor, that special amaretto flavor. And you wouldn't necessarily be able to use it in tea as well, unless you were specifically seeking out that flavor. So, for me, I haven't eaten that much of it since I got it, but I'm sure one day it'll be fine, because honey never expires. It lasts forever. It doesn't go bad. You could just keep this up in your cabinet for years and it would be totally fine. You know, as long as it was covered and it wasn't getting like dust in it or anything. Okay, so I'm sure this will get used up one day, but for now, it's gonna stay in my cupboard. Alright, so we can move on to the final jar. This jar is from Connecticut. Now, this was from a small apiary, so this is kind of a homemade label. And I got it at a farmer's market in Connecticut. So it's totally homemade from a small little company. It's kind of a cute little label there. But this is pure wildflower honey. So Bailey's also makes maple syrup in Connecticut as well. And if you look at the name here, George Bailey, that's actually the name from the character It's a Wonderful Life, the Christmas movie, so I thought that was kind of funny. I think this kind may be my favorite out of all of these. And I've had it for a while. But it is definitely starting to crystallize to the point where, and it used to be very, very smooth But now it's crystallizing to the point where I'd probably have to melt it down if I want it to become that nice liquid texture. Again. And this is just in some homemade packaging, just a nice glass jar. Very simple, which I like. Alright, so I can open this up for you. It was a little bit difficult last time I tried, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, not too bad at all. Okay. You've got some at the top there already. So, you can see how it's not going anywhere as I turn it. So we've got the graininess, but it's not that really hard set as of yet. So, try this out. Now, you probably can't tell or hear, but as I had it in my mouth, you can almost like chew it. That's kind of like the graininess that it is, but it's an interesting texture. It's not bad at all. And then as you swallow it, it kind of, like you can feel the texture in your throat as well, so it's just kind of interesting. It's definitely not that smoothness anymore. I really like this taste though. It's so wonderful. You can try to look inside and see that coating. I'll try to show you. I can like scrape it. So as you can see, it's just wonderful, and I really like the color of this as well. I remember the day I got it, he was also selling those little honey straws that you can also just snip off the top and then just kind of drink it like a straw. They only costed $0.25. It was very, very good. So, I'm not sure if this individual has a website, but maybe you'll be able to get your hands on it someday. If you ever go to the stores, Connecticut Farmers Market, then maybe George Bailey will be there and you can meet up with him and take some money. I want to get a good seal on this. There we go. Okay. And this honey is not going anywhere, even from the bottom. You know, it's kind of funny. I wonder what causes like this to crystallize, but not this, because I think I've had this longer than I've had this, so I don't understand why one of them is like very crystallized while the other is still completely liquid. I don't know, just kind of interesting. So anyway, guys, this has been my video demonstration of different types of honey. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you especially like honey and you haven't yet tried the creamed variety, I definitely recommend that. You can purchase it online from various stores, apiaries that sell it online. Just try to get it from a reputable seller so that you're getting good quality. Most places where you can purchase honey do sell it in the cream variety, but you don't want to overpay if necessary. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're listening to this. I hope it was a bit relaxing and you learned a little bit about honey, how crystallized honey is made. And if you have any further requests, please just leave a